Okay, everyone, so enough talk about those things. Let's jump right into the show. I want to talk about the college football playoffs because some people believe the college football playoffs should be expanded. Some people believe the college football playoffs should not be expanded. Currently, the format pretty much goes as follows, basically a committee of a bunch of people, they sit down, they watch these games, they collect the data, and by the end of the year, they pick the 4 best teams, or in some cases, the 4 most deserving teams to make the college football playoffs. So currently, we have a 4-team playoff system. There are 2 college football playoff games, 2 semifinal games, and then obviously whoever wins those games gets to play for the national title. So the question I want to answer today is, should the college football playoffs be expanded? Or should the college football playoffs not be expanded? And I really thought about this topic for a long period of time. And about a year ago, if you would have asked me this question, I would have told you, nope, no way, no how, you should not expand the college football playoffs. That'd be dumb. That's what I would have told you about a year ago. But I thought about this, and my opinion has changed. I believe the college football playoffs should be expanded. Now, honestly, if the playoffs don't expand at any point in my lifetime, I'm okay with that because I think the 4-team playoff system is a decent way to go about things. But I do think if college football wants to really, up the ante a little bit, if they want to really, improve their sport, they should expand the college football playoffs, and I'll tell you why, okay? First of all, let me get something off my chest because there's this narrative that these lower level teams like BYU, like Cincinnati, or even teams like, the Texas A&Ms of the world, people can say they're going to get blown out if they make the college football playoffs. You can't allow them into the playoffs because they're going to get blown out. Folks, have you been watching the college football playoffs over the past couple of years? Oklahoma got boat raced by LSU last year. Ohio State, they got blown out 31-0 a couple of years ago versus Clemson. Did you see Michigan State versus Alabama? These are top of the level powerhouse schools we're talking about that have gotten blown out in the past. Heck, Clemson in 2017 got dominated in the college football playoffs by Alabama. So they're Power 5 level schools getting blown out in these games regardless of who makes it in. So I just wanted to throw that out there and just push away that narrative very quickly. These teams deserve a shot. You want to know why they deserve a shot? They deserve a shot because we've even seen the Ohio States, the Clemsons, and the Oklahomas of the world get blown out in the college football playoffs. But let me say this. I firmly believe the college football playoff is trying to reward perfection way too much. Okay, what do I mean by that? Because let's compare college football to the NFL. I consider the NFL to be the king of sports in America. And a big reason why I believe that is because the NFL does not stress being perfect. I'll give you an example. The New York Jets might not win a single game in 2020. But guess what? They get a chance to draft Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields with the number 1 overall pick. And it's kind of weird, but they get rewarded for being awful, Meanwhile, in college football, if you're the Rutgers of the world, if you're the Oregon States of the world, you're just left out there to hang and dry, and you still have to compete with the Ohio States, with the Oklahomas, with the Clemsons of the world as far as recruiting goes, and you have no shot. That's the harsh reality right now in college football. And see, here's the thing, people. Imagine if Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady had one bad game this season, and that one bad game cost them an opportunity to make the playoffs. Imagine if that happened. That's kind of how college football works right now, because as we speak today, if you're a one-loss team that gets blown out, then you virtually have no shot to make it into the Final Four. And some people can say, well, I like that. That shows the regular season matters. And hey, if that's the argument you want to make, that's fine. But imagine the Green Bay Packers or the New England Patriots of old when Tom Brady was there, or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Imagine if Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers had one bad game, and because they had that one bad game, they don't get a chance to make the playoffs, and they don't get a chance to win the Super Bowl. I think that's very, very dumb. I like the fact that the NFL included a seventh playoff team because now we get an opportunity to potentially see a very good young quarterback in Kyler Murray make the NFL playoffs. But college football stingy. They're only going to let 4 playoff teams in, okay? Ohio State in 2018 had enough talent to win a national title, but they got blown out by Purdue, and the College Football Playoff Committee said, nope, you're out. Same thing in 2017. Got blown out by Iowa, but despite, scheduling some tough opponents, despite beating ranked opponents, despite having a pretty good season, despite that loss, Ohio State was left out the college football playoffs. The same thing can be said for Georgia. Georgia in 2019, they went 12-2, had a very good stellar season. They didn't make the playoffs because they had one bad Saturday. Same thing in 2018. They went 11-3, and they lost in the Sugar Bowl. But you want to know why they lost in the Sugar Bowl? They lost in the Sugar Bowl because they did not care about that bowl game, because the College Football Playoff Committee said, you're not good enough to compete for a national title because you weren't perfect for 2 Saturdays. Oregon last year. Oregon was the winner of the Rose Bowl, and they don't get a chance to compete for a national title, despite the fact that they actually had the balls to go out and schedule number 16 Auburn to open the season. Something that Alabama didn't do, something that Clemson didn't do, something Ohio State didn't do. Oregon had the balls to go and schedule a tough SEC opponent, and their season's over the first game of the season because they fall short to a very good Auburn team. I'm sorry, people, but the idea that we need to be perfect is causing some of these teams in college football to schedule nothing but cupcakes. The thing I like about the NFL is that we get to see Packers versus Buccaneers, Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. We get to see Seahawks versus Rams. We get to see the Chiefs versus Saints this year. Folks, when is the last time we've seen Alabama and Ohio State play a game in the regular season that actually mattered? When is the last time we've seen Florida play a team like Clemson that actually was very good out of conference in the regular season? We saw Notre Dame and Clemson this year, but that happens once every blue moon. And I truly think that if we allow more teams to make it into the college football playoffs, we will see better regular season matchups, and maybe Nick Saban will have the balls to actually schedule some tougher opponents instead of playing the Citadel the second to last week of the season, okay? Because when we talk about the fact that we need to have, only 4 teams in the college football playoffs, it's pretty much a race to perfection for these teams. It's all about being undefeated. It's all about who has, the best loss. When in fact, we should be judging these teams based on, who actually deserves to make the playoffs based on the games that are actually played. And we need to actually reward the Auburns and the Oregons of the world that actually have the balls to go out and play each other the first game of the season. We don't get to reward those people, College football right now is all about who's undefeated and who has the most 4- and 5-star players. It's not about quality wins. And people can say, well, Clemson and Alabama are going to run college football no matter what, even if you include more teams in the playoffs. Well, guess what, people? Newsflash. Peyton Manning made the playoffs virtually every single year in his prime. When's the last time we've seen Aaron Rodgers miss the playoffs? When's the next time you think Patrick Mahomes is not going to win his division? Tom Brady's been in the playoffs virtually every single year throughout his prime, minus 1 year in which he got injured. The Patriots dynasty was going to dominate whether there were a couple of teams that make the playoffs or not. I'm sorry, people, but the dominant teams are going to be there. That doesn't mean that we should, exclude the other teams that actually, go out their way to schedule tough opponents, that actually have quality wins on their schedule, that are actually teams that are pretty good, that deserve a shot at the national title. We should not exclude those teams for all those reasons that I mentioned, okay? And I truly believe this. I believe that if we expand the college football playoffs over time, this could benefit college football. You want to know why? Because we get more teams in the playoffs, more of these teams get national TV recognition, things of that nature, and we get more national title contenders. The problem with college football right now and why there's an imbalance in power is because there's only so many teams that have the capability to win national titles, because we have Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State dominating recruiting right now. But you want to know why that's the case? It's not because there are bad coaches out there. Oregon, USC, all these other schools, they have good coaches. The problem is their pitch to these kids are different than the pitch that Nick Saban or Ryan Day or Dabo Swinney can give another student, that he's recruited. Because here's the reality, people. You could talk about Oregon, the nice facilities, the great coaching staff. Same thing with Texas A&M. Even to a certain degree, LSU in certain respects. But you want to know why some of these kids are choosing the Clemsons, the Ohio States, and the Alabamas of the world over some of these middle-pack schools? It's not because they don't like these schools. It's not because they have bad recruiting trips. It's because Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State and those powerhouse teams have something that these other teams don't have. A shot to win a national title. And if you include more teams in the playoffs, guess what? Whether you like it or not, those teams have a shot to win the national title because they're actually in the playoffs. The problem with the Cincinnatis of the world, the problem with the BYUs of the world, the problem with the Penn States of the world, and even the problem with the Michigans of the world is they don't have a shot to even get into the playoffs. Imagine how much the power would shift if Jim Harbaugh can tell a recruit, hey, you have a legitimate shot to win a national title at the University of Michigan. And there's actual living proof of it by Michigan being a top 10 to 8 team every single year and making the playoffs. Imagine if James Franklin could do the same thing. Imagine if Luke Fickell right now at the University of Cincinnati can do the same thing. Imagine if Luke Fickell could go to his, recruits and say, hey, listen, did you see us in the college football playoffs last year? Yeah, you have a legitimate shot to win a national title if you come to the University of Cincinnati. I'm sorry, people, but if that happens, there's a huge shift in college football. And let's be real, these bowl games would be much, much more compelling. Imagine the Rose Bowl actually meaning something. Imagine the Cotton Bowl having, Ohio State and Clemson every single year. Imagine the Peach Bowl having Georgia and Alabama competing. Imagine the Sugar Bowl having LSU every single year in the playoffs. I'm sorry, people, but there's an imbalance in college football, and I truly believe that over time, we can shift that imbalance in college football if we expand the college football playoffs. So that's where I stand on this subject. For all the reasons that I mentioned, I believe the college football playoffs should be expanded. Now, whether you move to 6 teams, to 8 teams, to 16 teams, I don't really care particularly. I think that 16 teams might be a little bit too much. I think that 6 or 8 teams is about the sweet spot, but that's just my opinion. Ultimately, I believe as I speak today, the college football playoffs should be expanded. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.